One was about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She is the author of the book Dance While the Fire Burns Family, Identity, and Dreams. A memoir, no other than Miss Deborah Ann Lucas. Welcome, Miss Deborah
Thank you.
Ann.
I'm happy to be here. Hi.
Yes, and can you please introduce more about yourself that I
I'm
miss?
sure. I'm a horse lover and a writer and an artist, and I have just published my memoir, and I'm working on another one. And I moved around a lot when I was a kid, and so my memoir is about me finding the security of home and where I belonged. So, you want to hear more?
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Deborah. Thank you. Dance while the fire burns is so evocative. What does the fire represent in your story, and what did you learn about the act of dancing in the midst of it?
The fire represents the conflict and trauma that we had from moving all the time when we were kids. But my brothers and I would come gather in the living room and start dancing to one of our favorite songs, and our parents would join in. And so that helped, give a sense of family and helped get us through those tough times. But the book title actually came from when I was at my brother's cremation, and he was the closest person in the world to me, and he died too young. He died of AIDS, and I was his advocate and caretaker for the later years. And um, there was a problem with cremation because people weren't sure back in 1995 whether or not they were going to get their own ashes of their loved ones. So I'm like, okay, mom, don't worry about it. I'm watching this whole process. And the guy needed a little more time, and he says, hey, can I play some music? And I said, sure. And so I started dancing while he's finishing up with the ashes and communing with my brother. And in the back are the cremation fires burning. And that's what gave me the idea for the title.
The three elements of your subtitle family, identity, and dreams often pull us a different direction. How did you experience the tension between these forces in your life?
I was the baby of the family, and I was treated as if I couldn't take care of myself. And so as I grew up, I didn't have the confidence to. But I went through a journey of becoming an artist, and that helped me have the the agency to be able to follow my dreams and to be a caretaker for my brother.
A memoir forces a writer to select which moments to eliminate. Why was this particular period of your life the one that needed to be bold, a complete narrative?
It's honoring my brother because when I was young, he would stay back from his some of his activities and keep me company when I was lonely. And he'd get me out of trouble if I got into trouble. And so I felt like I was honoring him and this unspoken debt. And So, and the story was kind of amazing with all the moving around and all the things that I went through. And and then I found this place, this house. The house, the book begins in our this house when we found it, and we've lived here for 30 years after moving, after I'd moved 50 times. So it's that's why. And so there's lots of books to come after 1995 that I'm writing, but that's the kind of beginning, debut memoir that kind of gives you my basic story.
Miss Deborah, the phrase suggests a kind of beautiful, urgent resilience. Was learning to a dance in the fire a conscious choice you made, or a survival instinct you discovered you already had?
I um I had the resilience because of my mother, watching my mother. She helped carry us through some really difficult times, when my dad didn't have a job and we didn't have a place to live. And she was always joyful. She'd get worn down sometimes, but she'd always kind of, we can do this. It's just another opportunity or a challenge. And I didn't realize how much I had learned from her until I started writing this book and started looking at the stories in a new way.
On the family and foundation, Miss Deborah, how did your family expectations, traditions, or legacy shape the initial path you set yourself? And what point did you realize your own dreams might be a collision course with that foundation?
I walked away from my art in a community where I had started to establish myself with my husband when I found out my brother was ill, and we went out to California. And then a few years later, my husband took a job out of state, and I had to make a choice between taking care of him when he had injured himself or staying back and taking care of my brother. And that was a really hard choice. And so, you make your choices and then you try and do the best you can to fulfill the needs of the family as you go. You find new ways to figure it out. That's my motto: figure it out. I'll figure it out. So, yeah.
Miss Deborah, can you share a specific story from the book that you feel perfectly captures the complex of fiery love that exists within your family?
Feeling loved within my family.
Yes, please.
It was when I had completed my MFA at UCLA, and I had built this big installation with ceramic tiles covering the circular walls that we built, and it's based on goddesses in every woman. And my brothers, both of my brothers, even when my one brother was ill, he came and helped me. Both of my brothers did, and they worked until we got that installation up. Now, unfortunately, the next day at the opening, one of the panels fell down, but it was okay because the audience taught me it was the horse of death and transformation. So they thought I had done it on purpose.
Was there a particular family member, a parent, or a sibling, a grandparent who served either an anchor during this time or as a catalyst for the conflict you felt?
Giving us conflict. He's kind of the bad guy. He's not a bad guy, but he's passed now too. But he um had challenges, mental challenges, bipolar, and he always tried to do his best, but he really made life difficult for my brothers and I a lot of the times. And he would knock us down in terms of our confidence to do things, only because he had to build himself up. And we had to overcome that. I had to decide that it was okay for me to never have my father's approval.
Miss Deborah, on identity and personal journey, the journey to understand oneself is rarely linear. What was most surprising thing you discovered about your own identity while writing this book?
I realized that I had accomplished more than I thought. I found that I had to look back and I have a better understanding of myself and my family as I look back. I would go through writing some of the scenes and details that I didn't remember would all of a sudden be coming out of my fingers. And they're all dead. So I didn't have here, let me see if I can fix that. I didn't have um, anyone to check with on my facts. So I had to just, kind of dive through my own memory to write it. And a little bit my husband helped. He some helped too.
Hmm. Miss Deborah, dance while the fire burns implies a performance, a showing of one's true self to the world. What was the cause of hiding your authentic identity, and what was the liberation in finally revealing it?
The cause was a fear of making a mistake, of being wrong, of being shamed, not being good enough, especially in really eyes of my father. And what helped me get past that was the love of my husband and his belief in me. And then throughout my teachers, there's each place I would find a teacher who would lift me up and help me and support me. Nancy, when I was in undergrad and learning how to mold and sculpt clay with her. Um, and so that, and then the horses became my teachers. They are really spiritual teachers. So they are, they helped me.
Hmm.
They taught me how to breathe.
Definitely. And were there moments, Miss Deborah, where you felt you had to sacrifice a piece of your identity to keep the peace or hold on to a dream? How do you navigate that?
I actually stopped doing that once I had finished my MFA and I had my horses and my husband. And I did kind of run myself ragged trying to keep everybody's needs fulfilled, but I didn't sacrifice my own.
Don't sacrifice your own, Miss Deborah. And this book clearly explore the concept of inheritance, what we inherit from our family and what we choose to create ourselves. What is the most valuable thing you inherited, and what did you have to consciously let it go of?
Let me do that backwards. To let go of was to let go of the need of approval.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole family were always competing for, the spotlight to be the best or the most exciting of, story of the day. But the biggest thing that I learned, it's funny because the moving was what gave me instability and lack of confidence, but it also gave me a rich experience of these travels. We even lived in Australia for a year and a half. and I met all kinds of interesting people, and that has made it possible for me to just to be able to talk to anybody. I can walk into a room and find somebody to talk to, and I have the confidence because of those experiences. So, and then the perseverance, just keep pushing until you figure it out.
Yes. Keep pushing, people. Keep pushing. And Miss Deborah, as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
I'm at this point just loving living in the place that I live. And because it's 20 acres and a lovely view and two horses in the backyard, they're retired racehorses, and we rescued them. But I have lots of stories still to tell about my family. Um, the next one, the next memoir that's going to come out next year is a book with both watercolors of my horses and their stories, because I want to share the stories of what it's like to have a horse in your backyard and what I learned from that. Like how to make hay, how to vet a horse, and
Definitely.
how to bury one. But I'm
Mm.
also forgot to tell you at the beginning, I'm also a book coach, a certified book coach in memoir and fiction. And so that's another thing that I look forward to doing more of now that my book's published, is to working with women to help them find and tell their stories.
Well, Miss Deborah, looking forward for more success and good luck to your goals. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author like you?
I would say find a community. Find someone, what, through a library, or mostly through libraries is a good place, but the internet. Find someone who you can share your early writing with. And if when you're ready, if you have some idea of what you want to write, it's great to work with a book coach, even if it's in a community or a group of people. And the other thing is to read lots of things.
Hmm. Reads a lot of people if you want to be an author, for sure. And thank you for that advice, Miss Deborah. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence you, Johnny?
A book that influenced my journey. Um, it's interesting because it's way back in like 1970, and it was Shirley MacLaine's book. Um, and it's she was writing about her own experiences of looking for spirituality. And I hadn't been reading a lot before then because books are really hard to move from place to place. And that inspired me to start looking for a way to find my authentic self and the support that I needed for it. So,
Wow. Good luck for that advice, and thank you for that recommended book, Miss Deborah. And if you could go back and give your younger self to one in the thick of the fight, one piece of advice, what would it be?
to stick with things and to find people to help me pursue the things that I loved, because I loved horses and I loved art. And, I just wish I could help her believe that everything's going to work out okay.
Miss Deborah, since the publishing, what has been the most meaningful response you've received from a reader who saw their own story reflected in yours?
The interesting thing is, I thought people would be gravitating towards either the horses or the art or some of those things. And they were basically looking at the overall journey of overcoming obstacles. And they related to that. And they told me that my book read like a novel. They said they just couldn't stop reading. And so that really meant a lot to me.
Miss Deborah, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in the second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101, love letters, and movie 101 review, and music 101 in its fourth season, science 101 and sex 101 in its second season of my baby podcast, law 101 and mental health 101, as well as my Bible verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Deborah, the final image of your mirror is powerful. Without giving too much away, does it leave you a reader with sense of fire being extinguished, or with image you still dancing, having learned?
I now have a sense of dancing, even though I'm not dancing, when I watch a sunrise. And I think the dancing is living in a moment of joy and allowing yourself to kind of push away all of the trouble and just be in that moment and take in that joy. And movement is really helpful when you're doing that. So if you want to spin or rock a little.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Miss Deborah Ann Lucas, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
To support my what?
To support your book, Miss Anne and Miss
Well,
Deborah.
yeah, I mean, just go and buy it. It's also available for a few months on Kindle Unlimited, so they can read it for free.
Yes, Kindle Unlimited. Yes, people, let's support Miss Deborah Ann Lucas, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss Deborah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.